Fantastic. Well, thank y'all for being here. I'm sure we'll have quite a few more people come in as we get started. I have everybody on mute at the moment. I'm going to unmute us in just a second. But thanks for being here. First of all, I mean, you got to love the production value at the beginning of this thing, man. We got deep house music. We got a little new stuff going on here. So we like to keep things moving. Like to have a lot of fun here at Select Homes Coaching. I know some of y'all don't know me. My name is Mark Benefiel. I'm the director of coaching and consulting here at Select Homes. I work with Adam Bailey. Some of y'all know Adam. Maybe you followed him for a while. Some of his rants on YouTube or video, or maybe you're in our ISA Experts Facebook group, or I see actually a couple of customers that I have here as well. Thank you all for coming in. I'm not sure why you would want to listen to me since you hear me all the time anyway, but I'm glad. And there's quite a few people here I've talked to on the phone over the time have inquired about our programs and what we're doing here. And this is not a sales pitch for ISAcoaches.com or Select Homes Coaching. At the very, very, very end, like the last 3 minutes, I'm going to say, hey, thank you. Check us out. Here's a couple of websites you can go to if you want to learn more. Other than that, that's all the sales pitch you're going to get right there. And in the last 45 seconds, maybe when we're done, okay? This is about giving you guys some value of something. Hopefully you're going to learn something. So we're going to address a couple of things specifically. First, we're going to look at several models of ISA and agent interaction. Some popular models that are out there that some of y'all might use or be thinking about using. And then we're going to dig into our model at Select Homes. So those of you who don't know what Select Homes is, you know, some of you do, some of you don't. But let me change my screen here real quick. 332. So some of you who don't know what Select Homes is, so last year, I guess the Wall Street Journal report came out last week, and we were number 10 in the nation. It really bugs us because we were number 9 in the nation, you know, a year ago.
Russell, how are you?
We have to mute some people here. So, yeah. So we were number 10 in the nation last year as far as teams and sides go, 1,000 transactions plus. We were actually 9 the year before. Kind of bugs us that we sold more homes but dropped a spot. So we're going to have to undrop some spots, right? I got some things coming on my screen. I don't even know where they're coming from. I don't know if somebody's playing around with their cursor, but cut it out. When we sell all those homes, those 1,000 homes that we sold last year, we did it with 25 buyer's agents, 6 listing agents, and a team of 5 ISAs. So, and when we talk about team, I'm talking about in the Wichita office only. I'm not talking about our Kansas City Market Center or the new Market Center that we're putting in Missouri. We're talking about our Wichita local location. So this isn't across a bunch of states or a bunch of little teams. One team of basically 35 total people that have forward facing on the sales end. Of course, we have a bunch of support staff and a bunch of things like that. But with that small team, we had to figure some things out, right? A lot of what you're going to see today, especially when we dig into the Select Homes model, is has a lot to do with the price point we're at and what we're forced to do economically to make things work, to be able to maximize our position. And so regardless of what your price point is, you could take the same tactics, or if you flush with more cash and you want to throw more money at the problem, go for it. We don't have that ability based on our price point and where we are in this part of the country, okay? We're excited about some of the things we've done. So we're going to talk about the models, and then we're also going to talk about the people that fit those models, right? The types of disc profiles, the other types of testing and stuff we do, the people that fit the different kinds of models, because different people fit different kinds of models. Some of y'all are trying to run uphill backwards. You got a model, but you got the wrong person for the model, or you got the right person, but you got the wrong model. So we're going to look at the disc profiles and the types of people for each model, right, and what the positives and their negatives are. And then we're also going to go through our hiring process and the different tools that we use to hire and attract. Also, just so you know, all the forms and a copy of this, not the actual video recording, but a copy of this presentation are listed in a shared Google Drive that I'm going to give you guys a link to when we're done. That link is going to be good for 5 days. After 5 days, I'm taking it down because I don't need the whole world to have my stuff, right? But for you guys, I'll have that link up for 5 days. You'll be able to go to that link and download those forms, whatever you want, okay? So That'll be made available for you, but guess what? I'm not giving you that till the end, so you have to stick around with me, right? I will be done on time. I will be done by 3:30, if not before. I pride myself on being on time, starting on time, and finishing on time. So we won't go long. I'll probably stick around later if anybody has any questions, but I'll tell you when I'm done and when the presentation is over. Okay, is that fair? All right, I'm going to unmute a bunch of people here. Before I get jumping, before I go in on my stuff, is there anything specifically that anybody on the line right now who's got their video up and audio on, don't have to have video but has your audio on, that would like me to address today as we start moving forward? Are there any specific questions you want me to get to, or just observations you might have? Just go ahead and throw it out. Okay, well, hearing none and seeing none, I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and jump. We'll have some time at the end, some questions. So what I'm going to do for a little bit is I'm going to mute you guys for a little bit, okay? I do have a chat box open, so if you have a specific question or something you want to draw my attention to, go in the chat box, and then we'll get moving, right? Right on?
Stop.
All right. Okay, great. Chat box is open now, too. Okay. Let's roll. And I don't know if you guys have ever used Zoom before, but isn't the audio and the video quality awesome on this thing? We got like almost 30 people on here right now. And the video and audio quality on Zoom is tremendous. I highly recommend using the Zoom platform for your video conferences. So here we go. All right, let's look at a traditional ISA models. First of all, we're going to look at three models. We're going to look at the lead to ISA model first. And then we're going to look at the lead to ISA pooled model, and then we're going to look at the select homes model. So in the lead to ISA model, this is what it basically looks like. We have all the lead sources that come into one ISA, okay? And that ISA, and it may be 1, 2, or 3 ISAs, all right, depending on the size of your organization. I know we have 5 ISAs in our organization. I work with some others that have 6, and I know there's some other ones out there that are even larger. So just imagine that there's multiple ISAs if you're in a larger group. But in this model, all the lead sources come to the ISA first, okay? And they're going to sift and sort. So whether it's Realtor.com, whether it's your Boomtown platform, your Facebook messages, you know, your sync platform, whatever it is you use, Conversion Express, however you do it, your FSBOs and expireds, all those leads come to the ISA, and the ISA is responsible for first contact, right? That first 5 to 7-minute, 10-minute contact whenever possible. They're responsible for nurturing those leads from the very beginning till they mature. Okay. Yeah, one person is not. I got to mute somebody here. Sorry. Okay. And so one person is responsible for the maturing those leads from beginning to end. And one thing that we know from, been in this ISA business for 5 going on 6 years is the vast majority of our leads are nurtured anywhere from 6 to 12 to even 18 months out. So in the traditional lead to ISA model, all of the leads come to the ISA. The ISA contacts them. The ISA, figures out whether they need an appointment now, what their time and motivation is, and then they either push that to an agent for the agent to secure the appointment, or the ISA secures the appointment and it puts it on the agent's schedule. Okay, this is very effective, especially in a smaller organization. Okay. In a smaller organization, when you have, say, maybe you have 100 leads, maybe you have 200 leads, maybe you have 250, maybe you have 300 leads, this can work very effective because you have everything going on ISA, and if you have the right ISA, they can effectively work your database. They can effectively push the stuff out to agents. However, one downfall happens is when that ISA leaves, because as an agent is not involved with the speed to lead movement, getting a hold of the leads within 5 minutes, 7 minutes. If they're not used to nurturing those and they're not working through those, what can happen is either those skills aren't developed or they can degrade over time, in which case now you have your entire organization's lead flow on the backs of 1 or 2 people, which is okay. However, if that person leaves, for whatever reason, whether they quit, they hit by a bus, whatever, there can be definitely a drop in production, because now you have a big hole there. And now all the leads have to go to the agents, and they haven't completed and they haven't worked on those skill sets or haven't kept them up or never gained them. So it definitely has positives from an overhead standpoint because you've only got one ISA and they can handle multiple agents. We found that one ISA can handle anywhere from 3 to 4 agents on a lead flow of anywhere from up to about 250 to 300 leads a month. That's what our data has told us. Now keep in mind, when I show you the Select Homes model a little bit, we have been through these other models. Okay, when we started this, we had 8 agents and 1 ISA part-time, and then over several years we grew to the size that we are now, and we have multiple ISAs. But if you notice, we're at about that 5-to-1 ratio from a buyer's agent to ISAs. We have 25, 26, 27 buyer's agents. We have 4 to 5 ISAs, depending on the time of year, et cetera. Right? So we continue to maintain that. And if you break down our lead flow, once again, we're going anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 leads a month. So we have, 4 ISAs, maybe 5. So it's about 300 that they're effectively working on a monthly basis, right, of new leads coming in. Now, we're not talking about our lead pool, and we'll talk about that later. But in this model, the lead to ISA model, definitely as you start to scale, as you start to grow, there's nothing wrong with this model other than you have everything going to one person, right, which could be a problem if they leave. And also the agents don't develop the skill sets oftentimes that are necessary as your company grows out. Because there will become a point in time as your company scales and grows where this model is no longer as effective. And you have to have agents with the skill set to be able to convert these leads in a team effort or sometimes on their own. So we've found, especially when we look at our training programs that we offer at Select Homes or just outside my door here in our training room, we found that you have to work on 2 ends of the problem. It's not enough just to get an ISA and make them great. If you aren't also working on the skills, with the agents and maintaining those skills and growing those skills, then you often have a problem down the road. Somebody just put in a chat box a question, can't you have agents calling the new leads at the same time as the ISA? Jason, you can. And when I talk about the hybrid model that we use at ISA here at Select Homes, we'll address that specifically because that's something that we do. Thanks for that question. I'm going to write it down and make sure I get to it. Agents calling. So in this model, agents aren't necessarily calling new leads, ISAs are, okay? Let's take a look at this next model. And as I mentioned, this model can definitely work for you as you begin. It's a great place to start, but you will start as you start to scale, it'll be harder and harder to maintain. Also from a dollar investment standpoint and overhead standpoint, there's also some issues as it grows, and we'll address those in just a moment as well, okay? Let's look here. Lead to ISA model, the pool model. This pool model is starting to become more and more popular. And you can use different numbers here, but in this concept, or in this practice, leads go to ISA first, one ISA or multiples, depending on the size of the organization. And then if the ISA determines from a motivation and timing standpoint that it makes sense to set an appointment immediately, those appointments are then set and then pushed down to the agents. Agents, however, are tuned back on how many leads that they will carry at any given time. Okay, so it may be in some cases they say 12, some will say 50, some will say 100. Whatever number works for you, so be it. Usually somewhere between 50 and 100 is how many in this particular model they want an agent to carry actively working with at that time, and usually closer to 50, quite frankly. And if you look at that, a lot of people are trying to maintain with their agents that they carry anywhere from 12 to 15 active buyer agencies at a time. So from an active buyer agency standpoint, people that are pre-approved, that they're in the sales process, and usually somewhere between 6 months and less out, and they've actually signed a buyer agency agreement. If they fall in that category, they're allowed to carry up to usually 12 to 15 of those, plus other ones that they're working with and nurturing, et cetera. They don't get new leads unless they give one up. So all the other leads that don't go to agents end up in a lead pool. And that lead pool is then nurtured by the ISA group, or what we call our customer care center, the ISA group, whether it's one or many. And then an agent, if they get a dead end with a lead, they don't call them back. They've called them multiple times. You know, whatever it is, it comes up to be a dead end. They can then exchange one in the lead pool for an agent that's active on their caseload, if you want to call it that. Okay. Things that people that are in the lead pool then continue to be nurtured by an ISA through the drip campaigns, through the calling campaigns, through all the different types of campaigns that you might have to make sure you're keeping top of mind awareness with those folks. Select Homes, you know, looked at this model and ran portions of this model in the earlier days. But what we found and what happened was, because of the size of our organization, the way it grew, we got to a point where, let's face it, we have a database of almost 50,000 people, right? So if I got 50,000 people in my database, I can't employ enough ISAs to keep up with that lead, with those number of people that are in our database. Based on our price point where we are here in this part of the country, and where our average sale is $150,000. We have some higher, some lower, but the average sale, $150,000. That's one reason why we got to sell so many houses to make any money, right? I mean, if your price point's 350, you know, you sell yourself 400 houses, and you got all kinds of money left over, you know, to pay ISAs. But in our market, in our where we're at, and our price point, it becomes a burden to have too many ISAs on and only keep an agent effectively working, you know, 50 to 100 leads. I need my agents to be able to effectively work more leads than that, simply because I either need more agents, right, or I need them to be able to consume more data and handle more opportunity, okay? If I continue to try to add enough ISAs to handle that growing lead pool over and over and over again, I get to an economy of scale that I can't keep. I can't continue to pay. I can't go have 15 ISA on to be able to handle that pool. I have to be able to get my agents more effective. Hold on just a moment.
Upgrade, level up your business, your individual business inside the team, and we've seen.
I have to, the economies of scale get to the point where I can't afford to have that many ISAs on. So I have to have my agents invested in the process along with my ISAs at a higher rate. So this model for us, based on our economics, based on the size of our organization and the growing pool over time, gets to be where we can't execute this model based on that. I know there's a number of growing teams right now that are utilizing this model and they're using it effectively. But as they continue to grow, they're either going to have to spend more money on ISAs, which is fine. If you're in a price point in the market and your GCI allows you to invest in that, you could continue to do this effectively. And I think it is a very effective way for agents to be working with people that are actively searching and seeking homes at that time and doing what agents do best, which is, you know, show and negotiate, right, and close. However, with our economics in our region, it's not necessarily an advantageous model for this. And you might face that same thing. You might be in a luxury market where it's not an issue. But if you're in the market that we're in, based on our price point, this was a model that over time we grew away from because of those factors that I just mentioned, okay? Let's look at, see if I have any other questions. No questions yet. Let's look at the Select Homes model, okay, which I think what some of y'all came to see anyway. So far we've looked at the generic kind of all leads go to ISA. The ISA, you know, filters those leads, sets appointments, and then moves on and sends those appointments down to the agent, or they nurture themselves until they're ready. Like I said, that can work especially with a smaller team, very effective way to get into it. Over time, you may start to see some of the issues that we see with it over time, okay? And when I'm going to get into our model a little bit deeper here in just a moment. So let's look at the Select Homes model. This is where I'm going to spend quite a bit of our time. We use what we call a hybrid model. This hybrid model is a name that we came up with. Adam came up with it. And really in our model, it looks a little bit different. we have our incoming lead flow come through our database, and we use Boomtown as our CRM solution, along with our front end website, et cetera. But all of you use something that's probably similar. We have all of our lead flows come through that system, with the exception of our listing stuff that we do we use Vulcan 7 and other things. And then, we flow that through Mojo as a dialer, et cetera. But basically, they're coming into our ISA, what we call our customer care center. In the customer care center, because of the number of leads that we produce, 1,500 to 2,000 a month, and some months more, it would physically be impossible for our ISA team, based on our economics, it would physically be impossible for our 4 inside sales agents, sometimes 5, for them to be able to keep a speed to lead time frame with every one of those leads that come through. Impossible. And when we're talking about speed to lead, we're a big believer in that 5-minute to 7-minute time frame. All the studies suggest it. You guys have all seen it. If you get to a lead within 5 minutes, you got a 90% higher or 90 times higher chance of converting that lead than if you call them even 10 minutes later or 20 minutes later or 30, and exponentially go down from there. Everybody knows and has seen those statistics, and they bear out. They bear out. So the most important thing for us, and Adam says this all the time, is you don't have to be good or great. You just have to be available. People want information. People want to talk to a person, and they want to be able to get the information. Now, yes, there's a lot of people that end up on the internet because they don't want to talk to anybody. But the reality is when people are seeking information, they want that information quickly. And there's other studies that will show us that when somebody comes to our website and registers, and in the next 30 minutes, they went up to at least 3 other websites and registered there as well. And some of you know this. You may work with Zillow or Realtor.com or one of the other services, and you know that lead's going to multiple people. And if you don't call them, the first one gets there is probably going to get the business. So we had to devise a system that allowed us the maximum exposure, the maximum ability to contact our leads as fast as possible. And for us, it's not 4 ISAs, it's 4 ISAs plus 25 agents. So I have 29 people that are being connected to our lead sources as opposed to 4. That's very important for us, or else we would not be able to maintain the size company that we've been able to grow. If I had them all going to ISAs, ISAs are not going to be available 24 hours a day. They're not going to be available at midnight. They're not going to be available at 1. They cannot handle, if they're nurturing my database of tens of thousands of people and they're making calls all day long into that database, when do they have time to stop what they're doing and catch a lead? Now, agents are busy too. Agents don't necessarily want to take leads 24 hours a day. Agents are in showings. Agents are at closings. Agents are doing all kinds of things. So they're not always available to catch a lead. But we are, at Select Homes, we like to think of ourselves as a true team. And this is a very important point. We are a true team. There's no silos. There's no, that's my lead. Don't call my lead. Don't touch my lead. First of all, the leads don't belong to the agents. They belong to Mike Gerbic and Adam Bailey and the other partners. They're the ones that pay for them. They own them. The agents don't. So nobody owns a lead around here. The company owns a lead. So we don't get upset, and after we built this trust relationship, with inside our company, it doesn't matter who calls that lead. It doesn't matter if the agent calls the lead or the ISA calls the lead. It doesn't matter if the ISA calls the lead first and the ISA or then the agent calls it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the agent calls it, has been talking to that person for 3 months, ISA is going to call them too. We have to get used to working as a team, and that's what we're selling in the marketplace, the team model. And that's also what we sell in our recruiting, is a team, a true team, not a bunch of people showing up in the same office, walking around each other and bumping into each other. A team where we all work together for a greater good, for a greater opportunity to work together. This isn't some crazy socialistic utopia. It's us working together for a greater result. So in that, after we leave that ego at the door, our hybrid model works like this. Leads come in, and they're assigned round robin to an agent. Now, an agent does have the ability to turn themselves off the leads or on the leads if they're on vacation or they've got too many leads and they can't handle them and they're new. They have the ability to turn themselves on and turn themselves off. But leads come to agents in a round robin. Now, a new agent, sometimes we can tune that up and we can give them extra leads. A new agent may get 2 for 1. So every time around, they get 2 leads and everybody else gets 1. We can do that. But let's just say normally they come to the agents are getting the leads. Now, what happens if an agent doesn't reach a lead? What happens if they call a lead and the lead doesn't call them back? What happens if they get the lead and then they walk into a closing, and by the time they get out of the closing, they sent the person an email and they sent them a text message and they still don't get a hold of them? What happens? In a traditional model, the agent has to continue to, without an ISA, the agent has to continue to try to get to the person, and it'll fall through the cracks. Or more likely, as we know, sometimes buyers agents aren't necessarily always the best at follow-up. More likely, they try 1 or 2, 3 times and they're done with it. They move on to the next shiny object, meaning somebody who's ready to buy right now. So in a traditional model with that ISA, a lot of people fall through the cracks. And I know that because my phone, is ringing all the time, from people that are calling me and say, hey, my agents are converting at less than 1%. What's going on? Because they're just taking the cream off the top. Well, in our model, an agent is going to call every lead and an ISA is going to call every lead. So one of our ISAs throughout the day, right, because we have 4 or 5 of them, are going to call every single lead that comes in a 24-hour period. Every single one of them will be called by somebody from our customer care center. Now, the vast majority of time, they've actually already spoke to an agent, which is fantastic because now we get to sell the team concept. Oh, I see here you've already spoken with Betty. Was Betty able to take care of all your needs, et cetera, et cetera? So in that moment, when an ISA calls a lead and they look in the file in our CRM and see the agent's already talked to them, or ISA calls a lead and the agent's already talked to them, in that moment, they go from following up on a lead to a customer care center. And now we're just following up behind them. So in our model, all the incoming leads come to the agents. Agents are responsible for that speed to lead. We have to use them because with thousands of new leads, we have to have those 25 agents contacting them to get the maximum exposure. And then we use our ISA group underneath as almost a broom, if you will, to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks and goes down in the gutter. So in this method, not only are all of us working together and we have the maximum ability to reach every single one of these leads that come through. Every single one of them will be contacted by one of our ISAs. Every one of them has an opportunity to be contacted by an agent. So if we can get agents converting at a high level, maybe that's a couple of percent, and I say this to people on the phone all the time when I talk to them, what if we really train our agents to get really, really, really good and they convert at 1.5%, 2%, which quite frankly is about as high as they're probably ever going to convert. But then we also get ISAs that convert also at 2%. Well, the beautiful thing in the team model, 2% on the agents and 2% on the ISA equals 5.8%, right? And so it's the cumulative effect, the compound effect of having multiple people reach out to these leads as they come in. If everything comes to ISA, what if the ISA is busy? It falls through the cracks. What if there is no ISA and it come to the agent? Well, if the ISA is busy, they fall through the cracks. But when we have the agents here and the ISAs here picking up everything, making sure nothing falls through the cracks, making sure everybody gets contacted, everybody gets the Select Homes love, that's how you really go to the market and make most out of every lead that comes through. Everybody will be contacted. Nobody's falling through the cracks. And you have to get your ego out of the way because those ISAs are going to call into your database and make sure that every single person that's assigned to you has had contact by someone at Select Homes. It's an absolute must. And if you have somebody who wants to be territorial and say, I don't want those people calling in my leads, and you know what? That's not the right person for your team because they're not a team player. They're out for themselves. Now, does something come up every once in a while where somebody was talking to someone and an ISA called them? Yeah, that happens, but I can tell you this. What happens way more often is an agent talked to them, got squat from them, and the next day an ISA calls and actually sets an appointment. So if we want to take that one situation where so-and-so might have got an appointment, but the ISA messed it up, and we want to overlay that with all the appointments an ISA scheduled, even though the agent had first crack at it and couldn't do it, trust me, they don't match. You know, the ISA appointments are here, and the agent appointments are way down here. It's way mismatch. Fair? That's the way it happens. It is not uncommon for us on a call night to be, and every Thursday night we do a national call night where we ask all of our customers to come in. Sometimes we get anywhere from 14, 15, 16 teams in on one of our call night sessions where we're calling leads. It's not uncommon for one of our ISAs to call a lead who 30 minutes before that spoke to an agent. The agent was busy, didn't do a good job, didn't ask the right questions, didn't get deep enough, didn't build trust with them, and got nothing. 30 minutes later, an ISA calls them, has the time, the skill to nurture that conversation into something, and then actually set an appointment with them 30 minutes after an agent already talked to them. It happens all the time for a number of reasons. One, our ISAs are not bound to that 5 to 7 minute time frame. They have the time to invest in the conversation, right? An agent is bound to that 5 to 7 time. They got to get there right away, and if they can't, then they got to move on. The phone's ringing. I got to go to the next. They don't necessarily have time to dig in as deep as we would like. And since we know that, that's why we have this umbrella, this broom underneath, making sure things don't fall through the cracks. An ISA properly trained and trained regularly every day, every week, every month, and managed properly will grow the skill set to be able to convert these leads that the agents are missing. So in this model, this hybrid model, and what we call our customer care center, our ISAs are doing multiple things when they call a lead. And Adam calls it quad scripting. There's 4 things that they can do at any given time. 1 is they can set a buyer's appointment. 2, they can realize this is actually, they have a home to sell and they can set a listing appointment. The 3rd thing they can do is actually take a pre-approval attempt, actually gather financial information to work with our lenders and start the pre-approval process. And the 4th thing they can do is act as a customer care representative and actually set up a search for the agent. So this is typically what happens. A lead comes in, cell phone buzzes, agent just walks out of a closing, busy, got to get to a showing. They pick up the phone. Hi, this is Mark Benefield from WichitaRealEstate.com. I noticed you'd recently registered on our website, and we wanted to call and personally say thank you and see how I might be able to help you. And then the person starts talking to him a little bit, and then they say, well, I'd really love to meet with you. So when you're looking to buy a home? Oh, sometime in the next 6 months? Okay, great. Have you taken the time to talk to a mortgage broker yet about your buying power? And the person's like, well, no, I haven't really done that. Well, I tell you what, here, let's do this. Why don't I send you over an email with the name of a couple of lenders, and let's get that process started. I'll check on with you next week. Because they're busy. They got to go, right? And that's all that happens. And they assume that when they get back to the office, they'll sit down with the CRM and they'll set up the search and do all that stuff. Well, along comes an ISA about 6:30 at night, calls that same lead. Hey, I see you spoke with Mark earlier today. Was there any questions you had that Mark wasn't able to handle? Whatever that is. No. Well, I'm looking here at your file, and I noticed that he didn't have the opportunity to set up a search for you and start sending you properties that meet your specific criteria. Is that something you'd be interested in? We can send them right to your email address, et cetera, right? And so the agent didn't have time to do that, but the ISA did. So we got speed to lead. They were contacted. Agent maybe didn't do the greatest job in the world, but they were contacted. They got a live body that actually showed that Select Homes cares enough to have somebody answer the phone. And then if they weren't able to set up all the stuff they were into, an ISA can come behind, and now together as a team, right? Now we look like superstars because we've got multiple people working to make sure you're taken care of, which is what we're selling in the marketplace, right? Or are we selling, we do traditional sales, but we got some people who work in the office with us. No, we're a team. You'll often hear our customer care people say things like, well, I kind of act like, Mark's assistant, or I'm here in a customer care center, and my number one job is to make sure you have everything taken care of. It also gives them another point of contact, et cetera. So in our model, we've developed kind of almost a redundant system, if you will, a few pilots and stuff out there. So if one fails, the other one comes through. Now, these leads are now assigned to that agent. They're assigned to that agent. Some of our agents are carrying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of leads, but they're not the only people nurturing that lead flow. So on a regular basis, our lead ISA, Shelly, will make a determination that, today Deborah is going to call into the database of Tony and call into the database of, another one of our agents and another. And so they're working that database in their prospecting time, and our ISA is also calling into that same database. Together, by utilizing our CRM system, by taking good notes, by following up, we're now nurturing these leads over that 6, that 12, that 18 months that are necessary, both with the agent as taking the lead and the ISA. It's also very important from a turnover standpoint. What if Tony decides to leave the company and he was the only person that the agent ever talked to? Now they feel like they're not loved anymore. They don't care. But in our system, Tony and Deborah were both building a relationship. So if one leaves, we still have the other one to carry that relationship forward. Once again, we have that redundant system that's designed to make sure that every person is contacted appropriately. Okay. I mentioned earlier from an economic standpoint, we're almost here in Wichita, Kansas, in our price point, we're almost forced into utilizing a model. And Adam did a really, really good job of understanding the economics and what we needed to do to be successful and grow. See, in that pool model, my database grows so large because my agents are only taking a small amount of leads. I have to employ more ISAs and more ISAs and more ISAs to handle the pool. Well, our overhead does not allow that. I can't afford to pay 15 ISAs to handle that pool. I need to have my agents trained and operating at a high level as well. And that's a part of the equation a lot of people leave out. A lot of people want to train their ISA and they want to leave their agents off the hook. We said we want our agents being in the field, doing what they do, showing homes, negotiating, closing, right? Well, ours are prospecting, showing home, negotiating. They need to be prospecting their database. They need to be working that database. They need to be nurturing that database. We need them to grow that skill set. We look for people who have that ability to do that, and we teach them and we train them every week. And we make a tremendous amount of resources available to our buyer specialists, whether it's through our Jumpstart Buyer Specialist program that we designed here for our agents here, and now we sell in the open marketplace, whether it's our call night opportunities that we have, the training that Adam does in our weekly sales meetings, every Thursday, whether it be the team meetings that they have with their team lead. We provide a tremendous amount of resources because we know that there's two parts to this equation. It's not enough just to get an ISA and your problems go away. If nothing else, you can get an ISA and they can go away for a little while, but they come back in spades when the ISA decides, hey, you know what? These jokers around here are making all the money. Why don't I just become an agent? And they become an agent. Now, if you have a bunch of them, if you have economics that allows you to have a bunch of them, you definitely can utilize your ISA group as a training ground. And I think there's a couple of people on here that do that. Not everybody has the economics where that sets up. So here in Wichita, based on our price point, I would have to have 10, 12 ISAs, and quite frankly, the economics don't work. So I need to have my agents invested in this process with us, and I need to make training opportunities available to them. It's not enough just to train an ISA. What if the ISA is sick for a week? So is your production going to go from 4% down to less than 1% because you didn't take an opportunity to work with your agents? That's the dirty little secret. You've got to be able to work on both of them. Okay. Before I go forward, let me bump a couple of questions here. Let's see here. Is an agent compensated differently if the ISA sets the appointment versus if the agent sets the appointment? In our model, the question is an agent compensated differently if the ISA sets the appointment versus if the agent sets the appointment? In our model, no. There's no difference in compensation. What we utilize to pay our ISAs, we pay our ISAs a bonus based on what we call confirmed appointments. And a confirmed appointment means that the agent showed up and the prospect showed up and they knew what they were there for. Okay? If that happens, we pay them a bonus. That isn't predicated on whether the home closes, and it isn't predicated on taking money away from the agent. Once again, it's a team. If I take something away from you to give to somebody else, that becomes culture problems within our team. We've had those problems. We've went through some of those issues before, and Adam made some of those moves early on to make sure that that wasn't a problem. So we don't penalize, if you will, the working together. And we don't want to hinder that by giving a lower percentage. And that's one of the reasons why we don't give a lower percentage to our agents. You make the agents come into the office every day to prospect leads. Well, if the IRS is on here, or if you happen to be from the IRS, Mr. John Harp, no, we do not make our agents come to the office at any time, because that would be illegal and they wouldn't be 1099 employees. Now, do we provide an ample opportunity for our agents through the different programs we have here, through our call nights, through our sales meetings, we have some other programs that we've run in the past, our 8x8 prospecting times in the morning. We provide ample opportunity for them to be part of what we do here and grow our business. But no, we don't require them to come in, because that would be illegal. How are you compensating your ISAs? Our ISAs, I'm not going to go into detail the dollar amounts or the percentage or the numbers of our bonuses. I will provide that to you if you want to email me privately, and happy with that. But I'm not comfortable telling exactly what that is. For people that are customers and anybody I've ever talked to on the phone in a consult, I've always told and answered that question. But in an open webinar format, I'm not comfortable. I will tell you this: it's a combination of salary, or pardon me, an hourly wage. That's somewhere between $12 and $15 an hour, depending on how long they've been with us. And then there's a bonus associated with each one of those appointments that's set and conducted. Okay. Let's see if I have any other questions here. Okay, I don't have any other questions yet at the moment. Hopefully I answered most of those. Keep the questions coming and we'll deal with those as they come along. So the hybrid model, as I mentioned, just want to reiterate the point. We started with the traditional model. We looked at and kind of worked and passed through that pool model. But the economics of the world and where we live have pushed us into this model, and we've made the most out of it that we can. The main features of it is that redundancy of agents and ISAs working together to nurture these leads and to grow these leads. We know, and statistics show us, that the leads are anywhere from 9 to 12 to 18 months out. It takes time. Agents have a tendency, because they're right here now and their compensation is based on selling stuff today and this month, they're always going to gravitate to people that are highly motivated, have a time frame, and are ready to go. And that's where they're going to spend most of their time. And if they get really busy, that's where they're going to spend all of their time. Okay? That's just a reality. I've been a sales professional and sales executive for many years, for 20 years. A good sales executive will always figure out where their money is going to come from, and they're going to get it as quickly and as fast as they possibly can. That does not necessarily include working on long-term nurtured deals. I've run quite a few companies. I've hired a lot of people. That's a fact that I just gave you. They're always going to find the quickest way to make their money, and they're going to spend it all, which is good, because then they got to make more, right? So being that's the case, and being that's the case of the kind of people that are buyer agents, most buyer agents are high I, they're impulsive, they do a lot of things, they go after the shiny, that's what they do. We need to have this second level redundancy to make sure that that stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. The very nature of who we hire as buyer agents dictates the fact that we have to have that redundant system in place. And the economics here where we live dictate the fact that we have to have more agents on the front lines instead of more ISAs on the front lines. Whether or not that's the best model for you, you look at your economics and where you're at. And if you can afford to pay ISA after ISA after ISA and have your agents just kick back, go on appointments and make money, more power to you. That's not possible here. And I also think you may have some problems down the road as you grow, perpetuating that model. That's not to say if I wasn't in another model, we might not figure out how to make it work. However, this is what we've been able to do. So I have a question here. Do you set a quota or minimum required number of appointments for your ISAs? What if they don't hit the minimum? Depending on how long they've been with us, depending on their lead flow, and depending on what type of prospecting they're doing, we do have some minimums that we require. And what happens if they don't? Well, they look for a new job. eventually. Maybe not immediately. I mean, we're managers here as well. If somebody's not meeting that, we're going to give them a performance plan. We're going to train them. We're going to work with them. We're going to role play with them. We're going to listen to them. We're going to manage them. But if they prove to us over a period of time that they can't meet the expectations, we'll ask them to leave employment, and we'll find somebody who can. And it has happened, and will happen again in the future. Not everybody will rise to the occasion, no matter how well you train or how great you think your systems are. There's some people who, for whatever reason, aren't going to make it. And you have to be willing to ask them to leave. How are agents motivated to call leads if they get the same split on ISA booked appointment as their penalties if they don't call leads? Well, here's the question. How are agents motivated to call leads if they get the same split on ISA booked appointments? Are there penalties if they don't call the leads? Well, on our team, you have to sell a minimum of 2 homes a month to be on our team. So our ISAs are not designed to fill up your calendar. They are an assistance to you. You are still, as an agent, 100% responsible for your book of business. Our ISAs work as a counterbalance to that, right? As that redundant system. They're there to assist you. If you're not selling 2 homes a month, you're not on the team, right? And we also measure a couple other things too. So one, you have to sell minimum of 2 homes a month. And, we're also working on your goals and what your goals are, right? And can we put you in a position with the systems we have for you to make a decent living here at Select Homes? Absolutely. But you have to be involved in that. You're never going to get enough leads just from the ISAs to cover your nut, what you want to do, unless you just like being broke, which case maybe you could cover it, right? So you are responsible ultimately for the number of appointments that are booked. ISA is there to assist and to help you and make sure stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. The way that they're motivated, and what if they don't make 2? Well, they don't need to be on our team either, because we have a team of producers. And if you're counseled and you're trained, and over a period of time, if you're not able to maintain that level, you're asked to leave the team. And that absolutely has happened. And it will happen again. So what's the motivation? If you want to stay on the team and you want to make $100,000 plus, you got to set appointments. If you want to work part-time and sell a home once a month, you're not going to be on our team. That's a simple answer to that. Are your ISAs always making first calls to expires and FSBOs, or agents making first calls? Our ISAs make our calls to FSBOs and expires. Our listing agents do not. That's a little bit different part of our system, and we weren't going to go through as much today, but our ISAs are responsible for our FSBOs and expired contacts. Our listing agents do not prospect FSBOs and expireds. However, they do prospect their own SOI, and they do prospect networking, et cetera, et cetera. Our listing agents, just about, I would say probably 85 to 90% of their calendar is filled by our ISAs, which is a little bit different on the buy side. Probably less than 50%, but on the listing side, we keep those guys hopping, running from place to place all day long. And so while they do some private prospecting, our ISAs do the majority of their prospecting. Plus, keep in mind, we have a tremendous amount of other systems in place. What's up? I'm on live on camera right now. We have other systems in place with radio and print advertising and other media that attracts people to us at Select Homes. And so we have an ISA that specifically, all she does is respond to inbound listing leads, most of them that are coming through other community type of prospecting. Okay. Let's take a look here. We've talked about the different models. We've talked about the hybrid model. We've talked about the pool model. We've talked about the traditional model. Let's take a moment and take a look at hiring. You can have the greatest model in the world, but quite frankly, if you don't hire the right people, it doesn't make a difference at all. One of the key things that we do with a lot of our customers here when they come to us for training and coaching is we'll help them hire. We will actually provide them a bunch of documentations. I'll spend time on the phone with people. I'll do interviews on the phone. I'll look at disc profiles. I'll look at divine profiles. There's a lot of things we do with those services. Once again, this isn't about those services. What you see in front of you is what I call a job matrix. This is the first step in hiring an ISA. You need to understand what the job functions are of an ISA and exactly what the skills, the experiences, the attitudes, the results, the cognitive abilities, and the habits that are necessary to fulfill the type of prospecting that you want your ISA to do. In our model, our ISAs need to be both, be able to set both inbound buyer leads and outbound, FSBO expired leads. So we look for a certain kind of individual who do that. If you are going to have an ISA that all they do is outbound leads, which is definitely legitimate, especially if you're in a larger organization, right? And all they're going to do is call them FSBOs, expires. You definitely need a different person than somebody who's nurturing leads all day long in a buyer's situation, right? And so you need to understand what the functions of that specific job are and then go out and look for that. You can't just throw a resume out there and just hire the shiniest turd in a bunch. It doesn't work. If it's not the right person, if they don't have the right skills, the right experience, the right attitude, results, cognitive ability, etc., you don't hire them. Don't get desperate. Don't get money breath and just hire anybody that wanders by. You need to have the right person for the right job at the right time. And if they're not the right person, go without. What it costs you to make a bad hire or a wrong hire is tremendous, especially in costs that you can't necessarily put a finger on and just show up at the end of the year, right? So what I do is I create this job matrix that on the left-hand side shows the job functions and then shows what I'm looking for this particular position. This is my job matrix. This is going to be in that Google Drive that I said I'd give you guys at the end, okay? I'll give you that address. So the first thing I do is I create the job matrix. After I create the job matrix, that job matrix then creates my position description. I take what I'm looking for, my must-haves, the things I absolutely have to have, and I put that into my position description, and that comes from my job matrix. The beautiful thing is once you build a job matrix and then you build a position description, you don't have to do it again. It's there. It's available to you. You may tweak it a little bit. You may say, hey, this position, I've grown, and so now I want a job function and a position description just for outbound and one just for inbound. Once you take the time to build it, it's there, and it's going to survive with you for years, tweaking it every once in a while. Put the time in and build it. And the forms to build it are in that Google Drive that I'll share with you. So my position description, I'm going to look out exactly what the responsibilities are that I'm looking for. I'm then going to go on and look for specifically what the qualifications are and the requirements of the job. And I'm sticking to these. This is what I'm looking for. I have to decide what is a must-have and what would be nice to have if I could find them. Must-haves are non-negotiable. If you don't have it, so you have to go through your position description and put a star by, say, this is absolutely necessary for my company. Responsiveness to change, good written communication, questioning skills. Maybe those are your must-haves. Maybe having a high school diploma or an associate's degree is not as important to you. That's up to you. I'm not going to tell you. If you ask me my opinion, I'll give you my opinion, but I'm not going to tell you what your must-haves should be. I'll give you a list of what I think, etc. Let's take a look, couple of questions real quick. Are your ISAs licensed as active, inactive, or active agents, or is that required in your state? ISAs in our state are not required to be licensed. However, every one of our ISAs are licensed. As a team, as our responsibility, if Mike Gerbic was standing here and Adam's kind of bumping around back and forth in the back, stick your head in here, Adam. Put your head in there. There's Adam. He's taking some video, right? You're doing some live video here. If you were to ask them, what are we in? We're in the people development business, right? We sell a lot of homes, but we're in the people development business here at Select Homes. And so we're fortunate here in Kansas that our ISAs don't have to be licensed, but we believe that it makes them a richer employee, and it also helps them round out and do their job better if they become licensed. And so we give them an opportunity, and we'll actually pay for their licensure and their classes to be able to get licensed. So every one of our ISAs at this point are licensed. Actually, I don't believe Emily's licensed yet, is she? All but one. Emily's new with us in the last couple of months. I'm sure if she's not already working on that, she'll be working on that pretty soon. But we do have that advantage here in Kansas. Some of you are in a state where it's not an advantage. You don't have that advantage, but you can still find people. And we can talk a little bit about that. Where do you find those people if your state requires them to be licensed?
So if you got any questions, drop them on live too, guys. You guys are watching Mark's stream. His sold out webinar, how to define your ISA model and how to hire your next or first ISA rockstar.
Who's writing on my screen, by the way? Cut that out, man. That's really throwing me off. Probably Prentice. I'll probably just accuse him of doing something he wasn't doing.
Blame it on him anyway.
Yeah. So here's a copy of our position description. Once again, our position description is in that Google Drive. I'll give you here when we're done, okay? And it's a work in progress. I don't change my job function as much, but my position description changes. If my position description changes, I have to go back to my job function and tweak that. So there are living documents that, quite frankly, you need to pull that thing out once a quarter and take a look at it and tweak it as necessary. I then take my position description and I use that as the basis of my ad that I'm going out looking for an ISA, right? So I use that, whether it's a Craigslist ad or maybe it's more in depth like an Indeed ad or Monster. I'll use my position description as the foundation of what I'm looking for. So once I have all these things together, they're together. So what I want to do, though, is I want to find the right person. But to find the right person, I have to have the right process. And for me, the hiring process is absolute. I am not an absolute guy. There's lots of gray areas in my life. Laws are for other people to follow and they're suggestions for me, right? But hiring process is something I found in my business experience is an absolute for me. Because when I find something that works and I know it works and it makes me money, I do it over and over and over again with gusto. And this hiring process I have here works for a lot of reasons. Okay? The first thing I do is I collect my resumes. Once I get my resumes, any resume I feel like I want to talk to, if I get 10 or 15 or 5, I sift through them. I'm looking for pertinent experience based on my position description, based on my job function sheet. I then do a quick 10-minute phone interview. I talk to them for 10 minutes. If they can communicate, if they can string 3 sentences together and sound like, you know, they can actually talk to people and represent my company, right? They don't need to have anything other criteria than that. Have a resume that I like for whatever reason, right? I mean, I look for all kinds of stuff. I put people in account management jobs before of computer companies whose biggest skill set was they were a barista at Starbucks, right? I mean, experience can come in a lot of different places. So once I find somebody who meets the criteria I'm looking for, I'll look at the resume, a quick 10-minute phone interview. If they can string 3 sentences together and communicate, I send them a DISC profile. The DISC profile is my first line of defense, and we're going to talk about DISC profiles in a moment. If I like the DISC profile, right, I get my DISC profile report, I'm then going to call them back. I'm going to call them back, 20, 30-minute interview, more in-depth interview. I give them now a chance to ask questions about the job, make sure they understand the job. We may talk a little bit about compensation at this point. Don't wait until you meet them, you know, down the road after 2 or 3 interviews and you meet them in person and you had lunch. Don't wait till then to talk about money. Talk about money up front. Learn to talk about money up front. For God's sakes, for real estate agents, you know how to talk about money. Don't kill yourself going all the way down the road and now you can't negotiate a deal. Talk about money up front. Here so far, I've talked to them for 10 minutes. I've looked at a DISC profile. I get them on the phone. I want to make sure they understand what the job is, what they have to do the job, and what the job pays. If they're up for the task, then let's keep going. Then I'm going to dig into them. If I like them based on that communication, I use another inventory called the Divine Inventory. I'm going to show you a copy of that here in a few minutes and what that's all about. It is a sales skill assessment that I've been using over the last 12 years from a company called the Divine Group, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. I utilize that as part of my process. Some of you may leave that part out. If you do, it does cost a little bit of money, and so if you decide you need to leave that out based on your economics, so be it. You're not going to have as much information. You're not going to have as strong a process. However, you can't hire without a Divine Inventory. I've done it. There's a lot of stuff we can extrapolate from the DISC that reaches into the Divine stuff, but the Divine takes another step. I use the Divine Inventory after I've talked to them if I like their DISC. If I like the Divine report and I've talked to them for 20 or 30 minutes and they have the right DISC and they meet my criteria, now I'm going to bring them into my office. I want to do all this stuff before I meet them in person. I want to get all the analytical data, out all the information I can before I meet them in person, because here's what happens. You meet them and you like them. And you like them, or you like the way they look, or you like the way they smell, or they're funny, or you want to help the kid out, or whatever, right? And then you go get the data, and then you start making excuses for the data. Oh, well, you know what? That's really not that big a deal. I mean, I really think they can do the job. Get your analytical data first, and then meet the people. Find out whether they meet your minimum criteria, they have the ability to communicate, the data is showing us that they have the skills, abilities, and attributes to do the job. Now we're going to meet them to see if they fit within our culture, if they fit within our team. If I'm bringing you into my office, the chances are I want to hire you. Now, you might screw it up while you're there, but unless you screw it up, I've pretty much got most of the data that I need to know whether or not I want to hire you or not. And I'm bringing you in to see how you fit with the rest of the parts of my team. If I invite you to my office, I'm about 85% sure I want to hire you. You either can seal the deal or you can screw it up. It's completely on you as a prospect coming into my company. But this is the flow chart that I utilize to identify the people that we want to identify. And then we make a hiring decision. I want to make sure we're talking about money early in the process, not at the very end. And I want to get all my analytical data first before I bring them into my office. Those are absolutes for me. Whether or not you decide to use a Divine inventory or just a disc, you can make an argument either way. You're going to be stronger if you use a Divine, but you can make good, solid hires utilizing just a disc report if you know what to look for. Somebody asked me a question. Do you use a Divine report for agents as well? We do. We do use a Divine report for agents. It's a different report for an agent than it is an inside salesperson. How much is a Divine? I just started using Sales Drive. I'll talk about a little bit more about Divine in a little bit, Mike, specifically about cost and how you can access that if that's something you're interested in, okay? I will tell you this, the Divine that I use for my customer base, I pay exactly what they cost me. I don't make any money on that deal. So I'm happy to share that with you. So that's the process we use. This flow chart, once again, is in that Google Drive I told you about. Okay. Here's one question I get a lot. What is the ideal disc profile? I'm going to talk about the ideal disc profile for the Select Homes model. Okay? There's lots of profiles that will work. There's lots of profiles that will work for 3 months. There's lots of profiles that will work for 6 months. I'm looking for people who are going to have longevity in the role. I'm personally not looking for people that are transitioning from this role to another role and using that as a stepping stone. This is a hugely important part of my business. I'm looking for people who are going to get good at it, going to master that job, and going to be happy doing the job for a long period of time. Does that mean that somebody doesn't come into our call center and then eventually become an agent? Oh, absolutely. We've had people come through there and become agents. We have. A lot of times it was a confidence issue. They weren't sure they could be in the business or if they could do the job. Then over time they grew as people and decided, you know what, I could do that job. And then they move into being an agent. We're not necessarily looking for people that want to come into our organization and use it as a stepping stone to do something else. Is there a path for them? Absolutely. Do we create a path for somebody to come in as an inbound agent, eventually become an outbound agent, become a supervisor, become an agent, become a listing? Absolutely, there's a path there. But I'm not necessarily looking for somebody who has aspirations for being something else. I'm looking for somebody who's aspirations of doing the job I have for them and doing it to the best of their ability. Therefore, I'm going to go out and hire the kind of people that I think can do this job and do it well. The number one skill set that we have in our call center is the ability to communicate, to be organized, and to be able to empathize with our customers and what's going on in their life. If those three things are the most important parts of our call center, because the vast majority of our leads are inbound leads through our Boomtown sites and our other sites. I told you 1,500 to 2,000 a month. The vast majority of those are inbound leads, right? Then since the vast majority of inbound leads, and I know the inbound leads take anywhere from 6 to 9 to 12 to 18 months to nurture, I'm going to look for people who have that skill set and that ability natural to them. Anybody can say they can do the job. People come in all the time and say they can do the job, especially in sales. Sales are the biggest bunch of lying people I ever met in my life. And I can say that because I'm a sales executive first and foremost. I'm a salesperson. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing my entire life. Well, except when I was a prison guard, but that was a long time ago. Another story. So I've been in sales. I've either been a sales executive or I've been running a sales team, or I've been the executive vice president, or I own my own company, always selling. And the best sales job that most salespeople I have met will do is the job interview, especially if they're selling to other people that sell for a living. Because when you interview people, a lot of you out there, what you want to do is you want to talk and explain to them why somebody should be working with you, as opposed to asking questions. The best sales job most salespeople will do, even inside salespeople, is when they meet you. That's why I need the analytical data first. So if I'm looking for the right kind of people, I'm going to look for the right kind of profiles. Here's the profiles that we look for that fit into our model, which is long-time nurturing, but also have the ability to call on FSBOs and expires, et cetera. Okay? So we have a little bit of a mixture because our call center is a team as well. I don't have 5 people that are exactly alike. They'll never be able to work together. I have different members on my team that are stronger in other things. So what we target for our call center, for our customer care center, is an IS or an SI behavior system for a couple of reasons. We want an employee that's most interested in stability of work and that has high earning potential. The S gives the stability and the loyalty and the nurturing nature that we seek when we empathize with clients. And the I gives us enough of the extrovert to make them outgoing. The main overriding behavior for S is stability and security. I'm looking for somebody who's outgoing, but values security and values work ethic and is loyal and comes to work every day and is going to be there 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, because they're building people with relationships with people that they're going to carry from the time that they met them on a lead till they buy a house 18 months later. I want the people in my center to be there that long. And somebody who's a super high D, a super high I is not going to be there that long. They're going to be transient. They're going to have lots of jobs. They're going to move through. They're going to do a lot of things. They're going to get bored. I need people that value stability. It's truly the tortoise versus the hare. I am looking for some tortoises who can jog when they need to. Some tortoises who can jog when they need to, who can speed it up when they have to. But what's really important for them is that stability and creating an income for themselves that they can be proud of and meets their lifestyle. Right? Now that's in our model where we're about long-term nurturing. We're having agents that are I's and they're going after the cream of the crop and they're getting the stuff that happens right away. And we're utilizing our ISAs to come underneath. Right? Now your model, if you're in a traditional model where all the leads are coming to the ISA and the ISA has to be a closer, has to close everything, then you're going to be looking for a DI or an ID, preferably an ID, because a DI probably not going to stick around that long. A DI is going to look around and go, why am I here? I could be out there on the street making a bunch of money, and they want to become agents right away. So if you're bringing people in your organization that, and you set it up as the agents come, and they're going to be an ISA for a short amount of time, like 90 days, and then go on to become an agent, fine. Find all the DIs and IDs you want because that model fits for them. For us, we're looking at longevity. Why did we sell 800 and some homes or 900 homes 3 years ago, and 2 years ago almost 1,000, and last year 1,000, and this is the same number? Is because we're talking about stability over time. The ones that come in, a flash in the pan, that come in and go, they just create instability and drama. I don't need that. I need my people in my call center being there a long time. That's us and our model. If you have a different model, and you need people that are hardcore closers right away, and they're going to close as much as they possibly can before they come to the agent, then fine, look for the DI or an ID. The problem is you're going to have more turnover than what I'm going to have. You're going to have more turnover over time. I'm looking for longevity and stability. I'm not looking for a guy to come in and set 15 appointments in the first week. I'm looking for somebody to come in and set 3 or 4 appointments in the first week and then grow over time with a really good skill set where they get to where they can go 10 or 12 in a week, or maybe even 8 in a week, but they're there week after week after week. What does that do for me? It builds a predictable business and a predictable income. If I understand what I'm getting and it's consistent over time, I can duplicate it. It's hard to duplicate somebody who comes in, they're there, gone. Comes in, there, gone. You never get the systems, etc. There's nothing wrong with a DI. I am a DI. I would not last in a call center over a long period of time. I got to be out and about. And that's a problem that you might be having. If you have a lot of turnover in your ISA ranks, you need to look at who you're hiring and who you're bringing in, unless you are intentionally using it as a stepping stone to the next step. We're not intentionally using that. We're looking for long-term nurturing. Therefore, I'm out looking for people that are in that situation. If you're in a state where you need to be licensed to be an ISA, there are a whole bunch of people out there that for lifestyle reasons have decided that working from 8 to 5 or from 7 to 4 or from 10 until 6 is a better lifestyle option for them based on their behavior style, based on their responsibilities at home, kids, whatever it might be. There's a lot of people out there that are licensed that are looking for a behavioral lifestyle, does not include them working on weekends and evenings and holidays. Those people will be great people to become an ISA for you. But still, I'm looking for that long-term process. Now, on our team, we have a mixture of DI, right? Pardon me, ID, and IS and SI. Guess who is better at making my for sale by owner and my expired calls? The person who's the ID, because they have that ability to close. And they have the ability to kind of ratchet it up and get a little bit more direct with FSBOs, right? We don't close as many for sale by owners and many FSBOs as I would like, but I have to realize that what I'm looking for is the long-term approach. I could close more, but I'm going to have to replace that person more often. That's just the reality. It's truly the tortoise versus the hare, and we would prefer tortoises who can give it a good jog every once in a while when they need to. I have a question here. How often do you need to replace your ISAs? You know, let's face it, inside sales agents has a high turnover nationwide. You know, you're looking at anywhere from most call centers, anywhere from 35 to 40% per year. We're probably 18, 20%. At any given time, we're probably looking for one. But if you look at our numbers, it's probably lower than that. But the reality is, the way we do things around here, we're always looking to see who's next on the bench. And we're always looking to see who might be a replacement for somebody who's not performing or not performing at the level that we need them to perform. So we have some forced turnover too. We will replace people that are not maintaining their minimum numbers and replace them with people that can. Okay? How often do you need to replace IAs? SP 20% last 1 year. I'm not sure what that means. SP 20% last 1 year. Sorry about that. How much is the divine? I just started using, okay, I'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so that's what we're looking for in an ISA. We're looking for people that fit the criteria based on that information I just gave you. And that's my rationale, and I've been doing this for a long time in a lot of different industries before we ended up in real estate. But if you look at our call center and our success, that's the type of people you're going to find there, right? I don't want somebody coming in and making 15 appointments in a week and then the people not showing up. What good is 15 appointments a week if you're only maintaining a 10% show rate? We have almost an 80% show rate on our appointments. Why? Because the people take their time, they nurture their appointments, they build a relationship, and the people show up. We have almost 80% show rate on our appointments, and that's over thousands of appointments. So if you say you're better than that, let's look at your sample. You may be better than that, but let's make sure we're looking at the sample and comparing. Could there be people doing better than 80%? Absolutely, there could be. All right, let's take a look here. Divine inventory. A divine inventory, I mentioned earlier, is something I utilize a lot. The divine inventory, basically, depending on the assessment you take and the reports, are basically $150. It could be as much as $300 per. The one that we use in the ISA center and our call center is $150, and that's direct from the Divine Group, who I purchased them from, and that's the cost of which we share with our customers. If you go direct to them, you're going to look at those numbers that are closer to that top number. So do I use these on every single person? No. I use them after I've read the resume. I've decided I want to talk to them after my 10-minute interview. Then after I get the DISC profile, if I get the DISC profile and I like the 10-minute interview, then I'll have them take a divine inventory. And, you know, depending on how this person can impact your organization, $150 is a drop in the bucket to find the right person. A divine inventory will tell you who not to hire. It won't tell you the person that's going to schedule 20 appointments a week versus one that's going to schedule 14. It's not necessarily going to tell you who the absolute superstar is going to be. It will tell you who not to bring in an organization. And for me, that's gold. If I can not make the wrong hire, I've saved myself a lot of money, time, effort, and energy. The divine inventory in this case measures the 33 behaviors of a highly successful ISA, in this case, inside sales agent, right? Let me pull something up here real quick, if I can find it. Okay, so here's the Divine Inventory. The Divine Inventory measures the 33 behaviors of a highly successful sales agent, in this case, inside salesperson. The Divine measures all different types of job descriptions, that kind of stuff, right? So don't be alarmed by the fact just using the ISA. So there's all different ones, but I primarily stick on the sales side. It gives me an overall job fit for somebody, and then it breaks down the 33 behaviors of a highly successful inside sales agent. And those behaviors, I need to scroll up and get to them real quick. Any inventory that you buy, I don't care who you buy it from, what kind of inventory, whether it's a disc profile or a $500 assessment or whatever, any profile is only as good as your ability to interpret the data. And one of the things that I do when I take Divine Inventories is I help people to interpret the data. The data is key. It will tell you what you need to know. It will tell you what's going to happen with this person, what's natural to them, and how it's going to affect their ability to do the job. Way beyond a disc profile is going to be able to. A disc profile is going to give us some generalizations. The Divine Inventory is going to hone right in on the specific skill sets inherent with doing this job. It breaks down the 33 behaviors of a highly successful salesperson, in this case, inside sales. And in that case, it also breaks down those 33 behaviors and the most important competencies, which is the top 11, the middle 11, and the bottom 11. All 33 are important. However, not all 33 are equally weighed. Okay? They're not all equally weighed. So I'm looking for some very specific things. And if I have a bunch of these top behaviors, then that's somebody I'm going to find a way to get into my organization. Even if they don't have some of the bottom skill sets, the top ones, the things that I can't teach. The top of this stuff is the stuff I can't teach. I can't necessarily teach emotional composure, right? I can't necessarily teach empathy. I can teach you how to appear empathetic, but I can't make you empathetic. I can show you questioning skills that will get people to feel like you're empathetic. But some of the stuff mom and dad had to give you, competitive style I'm looking for. I'm looking for people to be able to manage conflict. People have the ability to close at a certain level, who take initiative, have good listening skills, they're goal-oriented, right? They're sociable. If they have these things, I'm going to hire them. I'm bringing them into my organization. Right, one way or another. There's other behaviors as well that are important, but the competencies aren't as important. Okay. Let me share this screen. Right, these competencies aren't as important. Are ego, assertiveness is important, but not as important. Negotiating is important, but not as important. These are all very important skills. But a lot of these things I can teach. I can teach you assertiveness skills. I can teach you to negotiate. I can work with you on your presentation style. I can work with you on how you communicate. I can't necessarily teach you to be competitive, right? I can't necessarily teach you to be empathetic. Mom and dad had to give that to you. So there's certain things I look for that are innate. There's other things that I can teach. And if there's things that I can teach and they're lower on the score, that's okay. There are some deal breakers for me. There are some things that I can't teach very well, right? One of the things I can't teach very well, right, is stress tolerance. I can't teach you how to deal with stress better, not in a short amount of time that I need, for you to be able to master it. Positive outlook. I can't teach you to have a positive outlook. I can put motivational stuff up on my wall. I can tell you no negativity allowed here, but if you don't come to the table with it, I can't teach it. Maybe I'm just not good enough at it. I don't know. Usually I don't have time. So I have to look for people who have certain ingrained ability, and there's things I can teach. I can teach how to handle stalls and objections. I can teach you how to read the situation. I can teach you how to grow the relationship. I can teach you questioning and qualifying. Those I can teach. I can't teach the other stuff. Therefore, I look for people who have 85% of what I need and what I can teach them to do. How are you going to get that? Some of this stuff comes from DISC. Yeah, I'm a certified DISC expert. The Divine gives me additional information, and I find that's a very valuable part of our hiring process. You don't have to use it. I'm not here to sell it to you. Don't care if anybody buys it. It's just something that we've found that works really, really well in our environment. Okay? Let me get rid of that. Go back to this screen share. Hold on. Okay. If you have questions about the Divine, you want more information about the Divine, I'm going to show you a link here later that you can go to it. A sample of that report that I had up there is actually in your Google Drive file that you'll have here in a moment. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And you can buy those directly online if that's something that you want to do. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Let's see here. 22. In-person interview. Just a couple of tips about interviewing people. I'm not going to give you a whole lot. I know you're not all dumb, but here's a couple of things. What the interview process is not, right? It's not a time for you to sell the job to somebody unless you're trying to steal them away from another company, right? It's not a time for you to talk about yourself or for you to talk about your company. It's not a time for you to it's a time for the prospect to be listening. It's not a time for the prospect for you to be listening and you spouting off about your philosophy of life. It's not time for you to be asking questions about the prospect's resume. What is it? It's time for you to role play. It's time for you. It's a time for you to get a feel for how a prospect asks questions. It's a time for you to ask questions specifically about the behavioral inventory, any flags you see. It's time for you to ask tough questions to make sure the candidate understands the job. It's a time for you to learn about the candidate. It's not a time for them to learn about you. It's a time for you to learn about the candidate. Don't waste your time and your 45 minutes or your hour interview with 35 minutes talking about yourself and your company and your vision. Set a second meeting up if you have to. Take the time to push them through the paces. Make them do role plays. If they've never been in real estate before, make them do a role play based on what they used to sell, wherever they were at before. Check their communication skill. Check their ability to connect and empathize. Say things like, yeah, my mother or my sister just died. They better say something like, oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that in a role play, because that's real stuff. Put them in a position that they have to do the job you want them to do, and then measure their ability to do it. Then measure that, what you're seeing, against the analytical information you already have. Look at the information that you have. If it says they're unorganized, look them right in the eye and says, how come this report tells me that you're unorganized? How come you're unorganized, and how does that affect you in your life, and what do you do to overcome it? Hit them right between the eyes with the tough questions. And then when there's time, talk to them about your company and the philosophy and where you're going. Do your part of the interview first. Control that process, just like you would a sales interview. I got a couple of questions here real quick. What do you do in circumstances where the in-person interview personality doesn't match the personality test results? Do you not hire them, even if it's a great in-person, or do you trust their personality results? I trust the test, the analytical information. People will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will say anything to get a job, and then 90 days later you'll find out they suck and they can't do the job. Don't hire them if the analytical information tells you not to hire them. Does that mean that somebody who's a CD can't be a ISA? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. If it's the right circumstance and it's the right type of prospecting. Some of the best salespeople in the world I know are CDs. They prospect like crazy. They don't care. However, they have a tendency to shy more towards people that need to buy right now. They're not long-term nurturers. I wouldn't put a CD in a long-term nurturing situation because that's not natural to their style. Can they stretch a little bit? Yeah. Eventually they're going to snap and come back? Yeah. You know when you're going to find out? 6 months later. They're going to do great for the first 90 days. Their behavior is going to start going downhill at 90 days. In about 6 months, you're either going to ready to fire them or they're going to quit. Believe the data. And if you're using a personality profile or an assessment that you don't believe in, find one that you do, and they're out there. The Divine is that for me. Every single time that I've had somebody hire somebody, when I told them, and I used to own a consulting business, and I consulted with lots of corporations, hiring lots of people from presidents to VPs to salespeople, et cetera. Every single time I told a board or I told a company not to hire somebody and they did anyway, they called me within 6 months and said, Mark, I should have listened to you. We should have listened to you. Can you please help us find the right person this time? And I'll say, absolutely, I'd love to be able to help you. Let's look at the process, see where it went wrong, and let's fix it. And usually it's because they didn't look at the data and believe what the data said. You can't hide from who you are long term, and it will show up over time. The only exception is business owners. Business owners have the ability to change their behavior because they have so much invested in it, they have to. An ISA is not a business owner. An ISA is going to quit before they change their behavior long term. That's my experience. Don't worry about the typos. I can't type anything anyway. How do you deal with an agent ISA conflict on, say, they link the apps, are not properly qualified? How do you handle appointment confirmation? The question is, how do you deal with agent ISA conflict on, let's say, the appointments are not properly qualified? Here's how it is. If they're not properly qualified, the ISA doesn't get paid. ISA only gets paid on a properly qualified appointment, and both the people show up and they know it's there. It's a pre-approved appointment, or the agent authorizes the appointment if they're not pre-approved. So they need to be pre-approved before the appointment's set, or the agent has to make the call to say, yes, I'll meet with them even though they're not pre-approved. Then we don't have conflict. So the ISA or the agent has either approved it beforehand, or they were actually pre-approved, in which case there's no conflict. Fair? If your ISA doesn't know how to get somebody pre-approved, that's a hole in your game. That's also one of the things we teach in our ISA coaching and training program, is how to work a pre-approval process in conjunction with the lending partner. I'm sure I have a couple more questions. Let me finish this up, get the links and stuff that you need to access the other stuff. I told you I was going to end on time, right? And I got 3 minutes to do it. So we do have an ISA coaching and training program. That's what we're most known for. The 6-month program. It covers outlines, internet lead conversions, FISBOs, all the stuff there on the left, right? We give 8 to 10 hours of live immersion training a week. There's several people on this call that are in our programs. We do a 2-hour live group coaching call once a week. We have a dynamic, what we call our advanced program, which is our sales mastery program. We have national call night. All those things are available. If you'd like information about that, let me know. I'm happy to send you some information or get you connected. You can always go to isacoaches.com and learn a lot about our program there. Here's my contact information here, isacoaches.com. You can also go to selecthomescoaching.com. At selecthomescoaching.com, you'll find out about the other programs and things that we have to do, et cetera, okay? Here's a copy of what you'll find in the Google Drive. I'll give you the link here in just a moment. You have a copy of the Divine Inventory sample. You have a copy, you have the actual PowerPoint presentation that I gave today with all the links and all the stuff embedded in it. You have the our employment ad we use for ISAs, our long version ad. You have a copy of a disc profile that I utilize from Extended Disc, which is different than some of the free ones that you guys have that have minimal information. I use a bunch of information that come from a company called Extended Disc. If you're interested in the information from that sample, let me know. I can hook you up with Extended Disc. Here's a copy of our hiring process and our interview process. Here's a copy of our job function sheet and even our ISA employment contract. That needs to be modified. It's a little bit old, but I know I get a request for that a lot, so there it is, free to you guys today. So all those things are in the Google Drive, okay? To get to the Google Drive, you need to go to this one that's right down here in the bottom. So here's what I suggest you do. I suggest you pull out your phone right now and take a picture of that bad boy, right? And you can go to the Google Drive. I will, however, since I have an email to each person here, we'll get this out, you know, to folks. But if you want to get to that and get to it quickly, because it's only going to be up for 7 days, take a picture of that thing, cut and paste it, and go to that Google Drive. And all those things are available for you. The other links you see there, isacoaches.com, selecthomescoaching, buyeragent.com. Those are all different URLs we have for the different programs and stuff that we teach here at Select Homes. So having said that, you want me to post that in the chat box? I don't know if I can. I'll tell you what. Give me just a second and I can post that in the chat box. In just a moment. Ooh, I can't post it from there. Hold on a second. I have to get you it a different way. Copy. Good suggestion, by the way. Wait a minute. Didn't copy the right one. I'm going to send you somebody else's email address. Now, let me see if I can drop it in there for you. There it is. I've dropped it in the chat box for you. So, having said that, we covered a lot of ground, folks. We covered different models, the hybrid model. We talked about the hiring process we use here, and we talked about which DISC profiles specifically we utilize that we have our best luck with. We also talked about DISC inventory just a little bit, and we talked about the Divine inventory, which we use as part of our hiring process. We also talked about the selection process and the interview actual process and the interview itself. So we covered a lot of ground here in an hour and a half. If you want to know more about the stuff we do, you got all the links, you can do that. So I really appreciate your time today. I hope you all learned something and you got a little bit more information as you grow your ISA teams or if you go into this world of ISA world, okay? These are all homegrown ISA teams that we have here locally that we work with here, right? We can do a whole nother session later on virtuals, yes or no, pros, cons, etc. I've done both. We definitely can talk about that. But we covered all the ground I wanted to cover today. Hopefully it was helpful for you. Let's see here a moment. Just a moment here. I see some people saying they're not seeing this because I'm in a private chat. That's why. Tell you what, I'll do it this way. Hold on. I'm going to repost that here just a second. Hold with me. Okay, here we go. There it is. Now it's up for everybody. I had it in a private chat for a moment. I apologize. So it's up there for everybody. My presentation, my portion is done. I'm going to do here is I'm going to unmute you guys. I'm going to allow you guys to throw some questions at me if you want, or you can throw them in the chat box. I got another half hour. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions you might have.
Is not filled yet, but you have there's this link. Go, where's my mouse?
Yeah. So if you want to talk to me, just go ahead and unmute yourself and throw out a question. I'll be happy to answer it, okay? Other than that, I can keep everybody muted, but you can unmute yourself and I can talk to you or throw in the chat box. Thanks a lot for coming today. I hope you got some value out of it. I'm going to stick around for another 30 minutes, but I'm essentially done. You guys have a great day and enjoy your week and your weekend. Thanks. I got a question here first. Before I get to the next one, it's just popping up. I posted for ISAs on Craigslist, Indeed, and Facebook ad. Plenty of folks apply, but none would meet the level of qualifications. In fact, got a bunch of questions here. In fact, I'm having a hard time even finding someone that has any phone sales experience. Where do you recommend finding good candidates? Well, I don't necessarily look for people who have phone sales experience. In fact, most of the people who have phone sales experience suck. Plain and simple. Most people who have phone sales experience was inbound only. And when I say inbound, meaning a call came to them and they simply did customer service work and talked them into not canceling their Cox cable. Or they, fulfillment where, they called in and they put in an order for them for, a pair of underwear or some lingerie. Most people, the experience they have is not relevant. And so I don't even look for phone experience. I look for the other criteria, like on that Divine inventory. Criteria, like, are they assertive? Do they have the right amount of ego? Are they empathetic? Those types of, that's what I'm looking for. If they have some of the other skills, great. They come to the top. But if they don't, I got to start looking deeper. I start looking for more customer service experience, like the kid I hired at Starbucks, or the guy I pulled out of that was working at a funeral home, right, in the past. They have customer service experience. The rest of the stuff I can teach them, or I can hire somebody to teach them. You can do that. Fair? Who else got a question there? You can just unmute yourself and throw it out. I can take a chance of unmute you, but there's always somebody making noise in the background.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Hey, Mark, this is Mike Quayle, by the way.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, man? How's
Doing
Joe?
great. He's doing good. Solid.
Good.
Let's see. So, hey, question was, you mentioned something about OSA training packages that you guys are either doing or going to do.
Yep.
What's the scoop with that?
Well, you've been with us for a while, so yeah, you probably heard me talk about that in the past. We did release our Buyer's Agent Jumpstart program, which is specifically designed for buyer's agents and the skill sets that they need to be able to be successful, to be buyer's agents. And part of that's lead conversion, part of that's their SOI prospecting and networking and mindset and belief and all that stuff. And we have released that program. In fact, it's out. In fact, we probably have a couple people in here that might even be in it or have people that are in it. If you go to buyeragenttraining.com, you can learn some more about it. And if something you got interested in, Mike, holler at me and we can my number. We can get
Yeah,
together.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good stuff there, man.
Great.
I'm really proud of that program because I built it myself. So it also comes. We also wrap around. It's an 8-week video aided course. It comes out every Monday, and we wrap around 8 weeks of group coaching along with it. And so
What's the web address again?
it's buyeragenttraining.com.
Huh. Buyer. Maybe I'm spelling something. Oh, double T. Got to get a T at the end of training and at agent. Gotcha. Thank you.
Buyeragenttraining.com.
Thanks.
What kind of questions we got out there? Thanks for that softball question, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, pitch it for you.
Anybody else? I see some people hanging on here. Any other questions? Mike or Rhonda or Christy or Larry? I'm happy to answer anything for y'all. Hearing none, seeing none. I'll hop off here. Hopefully I was able to answer most of the questions throughout. Hope everybody enjoyed the session. You have the links to be able to access the session itself, the actual PowerPoint plus all the documents. I'll leave that up there for 7 days. Get it while you can, because after that, it's coming down. Here. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.